Have you ever noticed that little warning etched onto your car's side mirror? The one that says, "Objects in mirror are closer than they appear." We all see it, we all know it, but we probably don't give it a second thought. It's just a standard safety feature, right? A simple reminder about spatial perception. But what if that warning wasn't just about distance? What if it was about something else entirely, something far more sinister? I used to think it was just a piece of legal text. Now, I know it's a rule you break at your own peril. My story starts on a Tuesday, one of those perfectly forgettable weekdays. I was driving home from a long shift at work, exhausted and just wanting to get back to my empty apartment. The sun was setting, painting the sky in those beautiful, melancholic shades of orange and purple. The road was quiet, cutting through a stretch of dense woodland that always felt a little older and darker than the surrounding countryside. I was just cruising along, lost in my own thoughts, when I glanced at my rearview mirror, and that's when I saw him. A little boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, was sitting in the middle of my back seat. His face was blotchy and tear-streaked, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. My heart leaped into my throat. How in the world did a child get into my car? I always locked my doors. I hadn't stopped anywhere. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Had he climbed in while I was at work? It seemed impossible. My first instinct, pure and immediate, was panic and concern. A child was crying in my car. I had to help him. I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching on the asphalt. The car jolted to a stop on the shoulder of the empty road. Without even thinking, I unbuckled my seatbelt and whipped my head around to face the back seat. But there was no one there. Absolutely nothing. Just the worn upholstery of the seats, the floor mats, and the evening light filtering through the rear window. My heart was pounding like a drum. I was utterly confused. I could have sworn I saw him. The image was so clear, so vivid, the crying dot. I could almost hear it. Shaking my head, I tried to rationalize it. I was tired, overworked. It had to be a hallucination, a trick of the light in my exhausted brain. I took a few deep breaths, trying to calm my racing pulse. I turned back to the front, my eyes automatically flicking to the rearview mirror again. And there he was, still there. Still crying, his small face a mask of misery. But this time, when I looked, it was like I was looking through a window into another place. The reflection was there, solid and real, but the actual back seat, when I risked a glance over my shoulder, remained completely empty. I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. This wasn't a hallucination. This was something else. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there, frozen, staring at the crying boy in my mirror while my own senses told me he wasn't there. After what felt like an eternity, I slowly put the car in drive and pulled back onto the road. I tried not to look at the mirror, focusing intently on the road ahead. But it was like a magnet. My eyes kept darting up, drawn to the impossible sight. The boy was still there, his silent weeping a constant, unnerving presence. The next day, the same thing happened. The moment I started my car to head to work, I glanced in the mirror, and there he was. This time, however, he wasn't in the middle of the back seat. He was on the passenger side, one seat closer to me. He was no longer crying. He was just sitting there, perfectly still, his eyes wide and empty, staring directly at my reflection. There was no emotion on his face, just a blank, unnerving watchfulness. I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs. And again, nothing. The back seat was empty. I checked the mirror again. He was there, closer. This became my new, horrifying reality. Every single day, when I got in my car, he was in the mirror. And every day, he was in a different position, inching his way closer to me. From the back passenger side, he moved to the middle seat again. The next day, he was right behind my driver's seat. His presence in the mirror felt heavier each time, more real. The air in the car grew cold and thick, and I started to feel like I was being constantly watched. Even when I wasn't driving, I tried to ignore it. I even tried covering the rearview mirror with a piece of paper, but I couldn't bear not being able to see what was behind me on the road. And besides, I knew he was still there, just hidden from view. The fear was starting to consume me. I was barely sleeping, jumping at every shadow. At work, I was distracted and on edge. How do you explain to someone that there's a ghost child living in your car's rearview mirror? They'd think I was crazy. I felt utterly alone, trapped in this waking nightmare. The worst part was the anticipation. Every morning, I would get in my car, my hands trembling, and force myself to look in the mirror, needing to know where he was now. And he was always closer. One morning, about a week after it all started, I got in the car, and the cold was more intense than ever. I took a shaky breath and looked in the mirror. My blood ran cold. He was right behind me. So close, it looked like he was leaning over my shoulder. His reflection filled the mirror. His face was pale and gaunt, his eyes like two dark, empty pools. He wasn't a little boy anymore. He looked ancient and withered, and his mouth, which had been a neutral line for days, was slowly, deliberately beginning to open. I could see his lips forming words in the reflection. It was slow, agonizing. I felt a primal scream building in my chest, but I couldn't make a sound. I was paralyzed watching this impossible thing happen, and then the words came. Not as a sound in the car, but as a thought, a whisper that echoed directly inside my own head, cold and clear as ice. It said, "Don't turn around again." That was it. That was the message. My body was screaming at me to turn around, to confront whatever this thing was, to prove to myself that the seat behind me was empty. It was the most powerful instinctual urge I have ever felt, to look, to confirm reality. But the warning, that voice in my head, it was absolute. It was a command, not a suggestion. I understood then, this whole time, it was a test, a game, and turning around was how you lose. I don't know how I managed to start the car and drive to work that day. My entire body was trembling. I drove with my eyes glued to the road, refusing to even glance at the mirror. But I could feel it. I could feel the weight of its stare on the back of my neck. I could feel its presence, a suffocating cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. That warning, "Don't turn around again," played on a loop in my mind. I sold the car the very next day. I didn't even clean it out. I took a huge loss, practically gave it away to a scrapyard dealer who asked no questions. I told him the engine was shot, that it was worthless. He just shrugged and hauled it away. I watched it go, feeling a wave of relief so powerful it almost brought me to my knees. I walk everywhere now. Or I take the bus. I haven't been behind the wheel of a car since. Sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'll catch a glimpse of my reflection in a shop window. And for a split second, my heart stops because I think I see a pale face looking over my shoulder. It's always just a trick of the light, at least I hope it is. But I still remember that warning. It's not just about the objects in the mirror. It's about what the mirror shows you. Some things are closer than they appear. And some things you should never, ever turn around to look at. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Stay safe out there.